What would you do if a complete stranger sang your dead wife's secret song? Alexander was kneeling on a Times Square sidewalk, desperate, watching his son cry uncontrollably. Then she appeared, Sophia, a young woman selling flowers to survive, wearing clothes held together with tape. She sang a lullaby to calm the child, but that lullaby shouldn't exist. Alexander's wife Emma created it herself, never sang it in public, never wrote it down. It was their family's private melody. So how did Sophia know it? Word for word, note for note. The investigation that followed would uncover a mystery buried for decades, reveal a sacrifice no one saw coming, and force Alexander to choose between protecting his empire or fighting for an impossible love. Because sometimes the person who saves you is connected to you in ways you never imagined. The November wind sliced through Times Square like a knife, but Alexander Bennett barely noticed. His 3-year-old son, Noah, was having a complete meltdown in the middle of the sidewalk, and nothing, absolutely nothing, was working. "Noah, buddy, please," Alexander pleaded, crouching down to his son's level. His $1,000 suit was getting dirty on the concrete, but he didn't care. "Do you want ice cream? We can go to Serendipity. You love Serendipity." The little boy's face was red and tear-streaked, his tiny fists clenched. "I want Mommy," he wailed, the words piercing Alexander's heart like they did every single time. "I want Mommy to sing." Alexander felt his chest tighten. Emma had been gone for 8 months now, a car accident on a rainy night that had stolen his wife and Noah's mother in an instant. The grief was still raw, still suffocating, especially in moments like these. "I know, buddy, I know." Alexander's voice cracked. He tried to pull Noah into a hug, but the boy pushed away, his cries growing louder. Pedestrians were starting to stare. Some looked sympathetic, others annoyed. One woman muttered something about controlling your kid as she hurried past. Alexander ran a hand through his dark hair, feeling utterly helpless. He was the CEO of Bennett Technologies, a man who commanded boardrooms and made million-dollar decisions before breakfast. But right now he couldn't comfort his own son. That's when he heard it. A voice soft and melodic, cutting through the chaos of the city like a beam of light through fog. "Hush now, little star so bright. Mommy's here to hold you tight." Alexander's head snapped up. The song. That song. It was the lullaby Emma used to sing. But Emma had made it up herself, hadn't she? She'd never sung it in public, never written it down. It was their secret, their family's private melody. His eyes found the source of the voice. A young woman stood a few feet away, holding a small basket of flowers. She wore a worn denim jacket over a faded sundress, her honey-blonde hair pulled back in a messy ponytail. Her clothes were clearly second-hand, her sneakers held together with what looked like duct tape. But her face was gentle, open and kind. She knelt down slowly, keeping her distance, but maintaining eye contact with Noah. "Close your eyes and drift away. Tomorrow brings a brand new day," she continued, her voice steady and warm. Noah's crying began to soften. His little body, which had been rigid with distress, started to relax. He turned toward the woman, his tear-filled eyes wide with wonder. Alexander stood frozen, his heart pounding. How? How did she know that song? The woman smiled at Noah and held out a single daisy from her basket. "Hi there, little man. Rough day?" Noah hiccuped, wiping his nose with the back of his hand. You sing like Mommy." Something flickered across the woman's face, surprise maybe, or recognition, but it passed quickly. "Well, your Mommy must have been pretty special then." "She was," Alexander found himself saying, his voice hoarse. She is." The woman looked up at him for the first time, and Alexander felt something shift in his chest. Her eyes were a striking grey blue, the color of the ocean before a storm. There was something in them, a depth of understanding that seemed impossible for someone so young. "I'm sorry," she said softly, standing up. "I didn't mean to intrude. I just heard him crying and—" She shrugged, looking suddenly self-conscious. "I have a thing about crying kids, can't help myself." "No, please," Alexander said quickly. "Don't apologize. You did something I couldn't do." He paused, studying her face. That song. Where did you learn it? The woman's expression became guarded. It's an old lullaby. My grandmother used to sing it. Your grandmother? Alexander's mind was racing. That couldn't be right. Emma had told him she'd made it up herself, that it came to her one night when Noah was a colicky newborn. Unless... Look, I should go, the woman said, backing away slightly. I'm glad he's feeling better. Wait, Alexander said, perhaps too urgently. He saw her tense, and he softened his tone. I'm sorry. I'm Alexander Bennett, and this is Noah. She hesitated, clearly debating whether to give her name. Finally, she said, Sophia Carter. Sophia, Alexander repeated. The name felt right somehow. Thank you. Truly. I don't know what I would have done if you hadn't... It's okay, Sophia said, a small smile tugging at her lips. We all need help sometimes. She glanced at Noah, who was now clutching the daisy and staring at her like she'd hung the moon. Even the tough guys in fancy suits. There was no malice in her words, just gentle teasing. Alexander found himself almost smiling, something he hadn't done in months. Daddy, can she come with us? Noah asked suddenly, his small hand reaching for Sophia's. Please? She sings nice. Sophia's eyes widened. Oh no, sweetie, I can't. I have to work. She gestured to her basket of flowers. Alexander made a split-second decision that would change everything. How much? Sophia blinked. Excuse me? For all the flowers. How much for your whole basket? She stared at him like he'd grown a second head. Sir, I don't think... Alexander, he corrected gently. And I'm serious. It's almost 6 o'clock. You must be ready to head home anyway. I'll buy everything you have left and... He paused, aware of how this might sound. And maybe you could walk with us to Central Park. Just for a little while. Noah clearly feels comfortable with you and I... He swallowed hard. I could use someone who knows how to handle a 3-year-old better than I do. Sophia looked at him for a long moment. He could see her weighing the offer, suspicion and curiosity warring on her face. This isn't some weird rich guy thing, is it? She asked bluntly. Because I've lived in New York long enough to know when something sounds too good to be true. Despite everything, Alexander laughed. Actually laughed. I promise I'm not a serial killer or whatever you're imagining. I'm just a desperate dad who watched a stranger do in 30 seconds what I couldn't do in 30 minutes. And my son is asking for your company, which he hasn't done since... He didn't finish the sentence. He didn't need to. Sophia's expression softened. She looked down at Noah, who was giving her the most hopeful puppy dog eyes Alexander had ever seen. 1 hour, she said finally. Central Park, and you're buying all the flowers. Deal, Alexander said, pulling out his wallet. He handed her $200 bills, far more than the flowers were worth. Sophia's eyes went wide. This is too much. Consider it a consultation fee, Alexander said, for childcare expertise. She shook her head, but she took the money, tucking it carefully into her jacket pocket. You're crazy, you know that. So I've been told, Alexander said, scooping Noah up into his arms. His son immediately reached for Sophia's hand, and after a moment's hesitation she took it. As they walked toward Central Park, the evening lights of Times Square blazing around them, Alexander couldn't shake the feeling that this moment, this strange, impossible moment, was the beginning of something he couldn't yet understand. Behind them, a street musician started playing a jazz version of Autumn in New York, and for the first time in 8 months, Alexander Bennett felt something other than grief. He felt hope. Central Park at dusk was Alexander's favorite version of New York. The city's chaos faded into background noise, replaced by the rustle of autumn leaves and the distant laughter of evening joggers. Noah walked between them, holding both their hands, swinging his arms like this was the most natural thing in the world. Sophia seemed more relaxed now, away from the crowded streets. She pointed out a squirrel to Noah, who squealed with delight and tried to chase it, pulling them along. Easy there, speed racer, Sophia laughed, her voice warm. The squirrels always win that game. You're good with kids, Alexander observed, watching how naturally she interacted with his son. Do you have younger siblings? Something flickered across Sophia's face. Sadness, maybe. No. No siblings. I volunteered at a children's hospital for a while, back when I had more stable circumstances. Alexander wanted to ask more, but he sensed the walls going up. Instead, he said, "That must have been rewarding work." "It was," Sophia said quietly. "Kids are honest, you know. They don't care if you're wearing designer clothes or thrift store specials. They just care if you're kind." She glanced at him sideways. "No offense to your designer suit." "None taken," Alexander said with a slight smile. "Though I'll admit, kneeling on Times Square concrete wasn't in this suit's job description." Sophia actually giggled, a sound so genuine it made Alexander's chest feel lighter. "I bet your dry cleaner loves you." "Mrs. Chen on Lexington. She's basically family at this point." They found a bench near Bethesda Fountain, and Noah immediately climbed onto Sophia's lap, completely trusting. Alexander felt a pang watching them. Emma used to sit with Noah exactly like that. "So," Sophia said, bouncing Noah gently on her knee. "CEO, huh? What does Bennett Technologies do? Should I know you from some Forbes cover or something?" Alexander shook his head. "We develop artificial intelligence systems for healthcare applications, diagnostic tools, patient management software, that kind of thing. It's not exactly glamorous." "It sounds important," Sophia said. "Saving lives through technology, that's pretty glamorous in my book." "Tell that to the board members who think I'm too young to run the company," Alexander said, then immediately regretted it. He never talked about work stress with anyone. But Sophia just nodded knowingly. "Let me guess. They all think you inherited the position because of your name." "Something like that." Alexander was surprised by her perceptiveness. "My father started the company, but he retired early. I worked my way up from junior developer, but some people refuse to see past the last name." "Their loss," Sophia said simply. "Anyone who can code and run a company is doing something right." She paused. "I mean, I assume you can code, or is that presumptuous?" "I can code," Alexander confirmed, amused. "Taught myself Python when I was 12, much to my mother's dismay. She wanted me to focus on tennis and violin like a proper Manhattan kid." "Rebel," Sophia teased. Then more seriously, "Your mom must be a big help with Noah, though. After—" "She tries," Alexander said carefully. "But she's in Connecticut most of the time, and she has her own way of grieving. She thinks structure and routine are the answer to everything. Meanwhile, I can barely remember to buy groceries." "What do you eat?" Sophia asked, sounding genuinely concerned. "Whatever my assistant orders, mostly. A lot of takeout from the Thai place on 3rd Avenue. Sophia made a disapproving sound. "That's terrible. No wonder Noah's having rough days. He probably senses your stress." Alexander bristled slightly. "I'm doing the best I can." "I know," Sophia said gently, cutting him off. "I didn't mean it as criticism. I just meant kids are like emotional sponges. If you're running on fumes, he feels it." She was right, of course. Alexander had been running on fumes for months, ever since the police officer had shown up at his door at 2 in the morning, hat in hand, with news that shattered his world. "How do you know so much about this?" Alexander asked. "The grief thing, I mean." Sophia was quiet for a moment, her fingers absently smoothing Noah's hair. The little boy was getting drowsy, his thumb creeping toward his mouth. "I lost someone too," she said finally. "My grandmother. She raised me after my parents. Well, let's just say they weren't parent material. Gran died 2 years ago, and it felt like the floor disappeared from under me." "I'm sorry," Alexander said, meaning it. "Yeah, well." Sophia's voice was tight. "Life goes on, right? Even when you think it can't possibly." They sat in comfortable silence for a moment, watching the fountain. The lights around it were starting to twinkle as evening deepened into night. "Can I ask you something?" Alexander said. "About that song, the Lullaby." Sophia tensed. "What about it?" "My wife, Emma, she told me she made it up, that it was her own creation, but you said your grandmother sang it to you." Sophia's face was unreadable. "Maybe your wife and my grandmother knew each other, or maybe they both knew someone who taught it to them. Songs travel, you know, they're not copyrighted. That's just it, Alexander pressed. Emma was very specific. She said it came to her in a dream, that she'd never heard it anywhere before. She sang it to Noah from the day he was born. He paused. What was your grandmother's name? Why does it matter? Sophia asked, her tone suddenly defensive. Because my wife's name was Emma Rose Bennett. Before we married, she was Emma Rose Mitchell. And she grew up in Brooklyn, in a small apartment near Prospect Park with her single mother who worked 3 jobs to keep them afloat. Alexander watched Sophia's face carefully. Her mother's name was Rose Mitchell. Emma never knew her father. Sophia had gone very still. Noah had fallen asleep against her chest, his small hand clutching the daisy she'd given him. My grandmother's name, Sophia said slowly, was Rose Carter. She raised me in Brooklyn, near Prospect Park. She looked up at Alexander, her grey-blue eyes wide. But her maiden name was Mitchell. The world seemed to tilt slightly. Alexander's heart was pounding so hard he could hear it in his ears. That's not possible, he whispered. Rose Mitchell died when Emma was 17. Emma went to the funeral. She told me about it, how devastating it was, how alone she felt. My grandmother Rose died 2 years ago, Sophia said, her voice shaking. When I was 22, and she definitely wasn't dead before that because she raised me my entire life. They stared at each other, both trying to make sense of what this meant. Wait, Alexander said, his mind racing. If your grandmother was Rose Mitchell and Emma's mother was Rose Mitchell, then either there were 2 women with the same name, Sophia finished, or someone lied about dying, or, she swallowed hard, or your wife had family she didn't know about. Alexander felt like he couldn't breathe. Emma had always been so certain she was alone in the world. No siblings, no cousins, no grandparents, just her mother, who died when she was a teenager, and then later, Alexander and Noah. Did your grandmother ever mention having another daughter? Alexander asked urgently. Or giving up a child? Sophia shook her head slowly. She never talked about her past much, said it was painful. I always assumed she meant my mother, who left me with Gran when I was a baby and never came back. She looked down at Noah, sleeping peacefully. But what if there was more to the story? We need to figure this out, Alexander said. If Emma had family she didn't know about, if you're somehow connected to her. He couldn't finish the sentence. The implications were too enormous. Sophia carefully shifted Noah in her arms. This is crazy. This whole thing is crazy. I should go— Please don't, Alexander said quickly. I know this is overwhelming. Trust me, I'm overwhelmed too. But that song, Sophia, that song was Emma's most precious thing. She sang it to our son every single night, and you knew it. You knew every word, every note. He leaned forward. That can't be a coincidence. Sophia bit her lip, clearly torn between running away and staying to solve this mystery. 1 hour is up, she said quietly. I know. I should really go home. Where's home? Alexander asked, then immediately added, I'm not being creepy, a shelter in Queens, Sophia said bluntly. The Flowers don't exactly pay for Manhattan rent. She said it matter-of-factly, without self-pity, but Alexander felt his chest constrict. Sophia, don't, she said firmly. I don't need pity. I'm working on getting back on my feet. I had a good job once. I was a preschool teacher at a Montessori school in Chelsea. But I got sick, missed too much work, lost the job, couldn't pay rent, and— She shrugged. Here we are, but I'm clawing my way back. I always do. Alexander looked at this young woman, proud, kind, resilient, holding his sleeping son like he was precious, and he made another split-second decision. Have dinner with us, he said, tomorrow night at my apartment. We can look through Emma's things, see if there's any connection to your grandmother, and— He smiled slightly. I'll order from somewhere other than the Thai place. Scout's honor. Sophia studied him for a long moment. Finally, she said, Were you actually a scout? God, no. I was terrible at camping. She laughed, really laughed this time. Okay, Alexander Bennett. Tomorrow night. But only because I'm curious about this mystery now, too. And maybe a little bit for the non-Thai food? Maybe a little bit for that, too. As they exchanged phone numbers, and Sophia carefully transferred the sleeping Noah into Alexander's arms, Alexander couldn't shake the feeling that Emma had somehow orchestrated this from wherever she was now. His wife had always believed in fate, in meant-to-be moments. Maybe she still did. Alexander's penthouse apartment on the Upper West Side was nothing like Sophia expected. She'd braced herself for cold minimalism, all glass and steel and uncomfortable designer furniture. Instead, she found herself in a space that felt lived in, almost cozy despite its obvious luxury. There were toys scattered across the Persian rug, framed photos covered every surface, Emma laughing at a beach, Noah as a newborn, family moments frozen in time. The kitchen had crayon drawings stuck to the stainless steel refrigerator with alphabet magnets. "Sorry about the mess," Alexander said, juggling Noah on his hip while trying to clear space on the dining table. "Maria, our housekeeper, has Wednesdays off, and I'm not exactly winning any awards for tidiness." "It looks like a home," Sophia said simply, setting down the small bag she'd brought. "That's better than tidy." She'd changed for dinner. Well, changed was generous. She'd borrowed a cleaner sweater from another woman at the shelter and spent extra time making sure her hair looked decent. She still felt wildly out of place in this apartment that probably cost more than she'd earn in 10 lifetimes, but Alexander's genuine smile when he opened the door had settled her nerves somewhat. "Noah's been talking about you all day," Alexander said, setting his son down. The little boy immediately ran to Sophia, wrapping his arms around her legs. "Miss Sophie, you came." "I promised, didn't I?" Sophia knelt down to his level. "And I always keep my promises." "Daddy ordered pizza," Noah announced proudly. "The good kind with the puffy crust from Lombardi's." "Wow, fancy," Sophia said, genuinely impressed. Lombardi's wasn't cheap. She'd walked past it 100 times but never dared to go in. "I figured we needed real New York pizza for a proper investigation," Alexander said. He looked nervous, she realized. This powerful CEO who commanded boardrooms was nervous about having her over. Something about that made her relax even more. While Noah played with building blocks on the living room floor, Alexander brought out a large cardboard box and set it on the cleared dining table. "This is Emma's memory box," he explained, his voice soft. "Her journals, photos, letters from her mother. I haven't been able to go through most of it since," he cleared his throat. "But if there's a connection between her and your grandmother, it might be in here." Sophia approached the box slowly, feeling like she was intruding on something sacred. "Are you sure you want me looking through this? These are her private things." "I'm sure," Alexander said firmly. "Emma would want the truth found. She hated mysteries, always said life was too short for unanswered questions." He smiled sadly. Ironic, considering. They worked through the box methodically, Sophia handling everything with careful reverence. There were photos of a young Emma, gangly teenager with braces, college student with unfortunate bangs, beautiful bride in a simple white dress. She was gorgeous, Sophia said softly, studying a photo of Emma holding newborn Noah. The resemblance to the woman in Sophia's own memories was striking, the same warm smile, the same gentle eyes. "Inside and out," Alexander agreed. She volunteered at 3 different charities, always brought coffee to the doorman, never forgot anyone's birthday. She made the world lighter somehow. Sophia found a stack of letters tied with ribbon. "Are these from her mother?" "Yes. Rose wrote to Emma every week when Emma was away at college. Emma treasured them." Alexander's brow furrowed. "Though I always thought it was strange, the letters stopped abruptly when Emma was 17. That's when Rose supposedly died." Sophia carefully untied the ribbon and began reading. The letters were mundane but affectionate. A mother telling her daughter about her day, asking about classes, sharing neighborhood gossip from Brooklyn. Then Sophia found it. A letter dated 3 months before the letters stopped. Her hands started shaking as she read. "Dearest Emma, I need to tell you something I should have shared long ago. It's about your sister." The letter ended there, torn in half. "Alexander," Sophia whispered, "look at this." He read the fragment, his face going pale. "Her sister. Emma didn't have a sister. She told me she was an only child." Maybe she didn't know. Sophia said, her mind racing. Maybe Rose was about to tell her, but something happened first. Alexander was already pulling up something on his phone. Rose Mitchell, Brooklyn, let me search, he typed frantically. Here, an obituary from 18 years ago. Rose Mitchell, 45, passed away suddenly, survived by her daughter Emma, 17. He looked up. But your grandmother was Rose Carter, and she died 2 years ago. Different last name. Carter was her married name, Sophia explained. She married my grandfather when I was 2, but he died a year later. She kept his name. She paused. What was Emma's mother's maiden name? I don't know, Emma never mentioned it. Alexander dove back into the box, searching. Wait, here, Emma's birth certificate. They studied it together. Mother, Rose Elizabeth Mitchell. Father, unknown. Elizabeth, Sophia breathed. My grandmother's middle name was Elizabeth too. Alexander sat back heavily. This can't be coincidence. 2 women, same first and middle name, both in Brooklyn, both with daughters around the same age. Unless, Sophia said slowly, they weren't 2 women. What if Rose faked her death? The words hung in the air like smoke. Why would she do that? Alexander asked. Why would a mother fake her death and abandon her 17-year-old daughter? I don't know, but Sophia stopped suddenly, a memory surfacing. Wait, my grandmother had this box, a locked box she kept in her closet. She made me promise never to open it, said it contained old sorrows that needed to stay buried. When she died, the shelter took most of her things, but I grabbed that box. I've been keeping it at a storage unit in Queens, the only thing I refused to leave behind. Alexander stood up so fast his chair scraped. We need to get that box. Now it's almost 8 o'clock. Sophia, this could explain everything. Why you know the lullaby. Why Emma thought she was alone. Why... He stopped. Please, I need to know. Emma deserves to know the truth, even if she's not here to hear it. Sophia saw the desperation in his eyes and nodded. Okay, but we're taking Noah. I'm not leaving a 3-year-old with a babysitter at the last minute. Deal. 20 minutes later, they were in Alexander's Mercedes, a car so expensive Sophia was afraid to breathe wrong, driving through Queens. Noah was strapped in his car seat, munching on pizza crust and singing off-key. Take the next left, Sophia directed. The storage place is near the subway station. The neighborhood got grittier as they drove. Alexander didn't comment, but she saw him checking that the doors were locked. I'm sorry it's not Park Avenue, Sophia said, unable to keep the edge from her voice. That's not what I'm thinking, Alexander said quietly. I'm thinking about how strong you must be to navigate all this alone, to lose everything and still find ways to help crying kids in Times Square. Sophia felt her throat tighten. Yeah, well, what else am I supposed to do? Give up? A lot of people would. The storage facility was a dingy building with flickering fluorescent lights. Sophia led them to Unit 237, barely bigger than a closet. Inside were 3 plastic bins and 1 small wooden box, ornately carved with roses. That's it, Sophia said, pointing. Alexander carried the box to the car, while Sophia locked up. Back in the vehicle, with Noah dozing in his seat, they sat in the parking lot and stared at the box. You should open it, Alexander said. It was your grandmother's. But it might be about your wife. Then we should open it together. Sophia took a deep breath and lifted the lid. Inside were letters, dozens of them, photos, and a birth certificate. Not Emma's, another girl's. Name, Sophia Rose Mitchell. Born March 15th in Brooklyn, New York. Mother, Rose Elizabeth Mitchell. Father, unknown. Sophia's hands shook so badly the paper fluttered. That's my birthday. That's my name. But my birth certificate says Carter, not Mitchell, and... Look at the photos, Alexander interrupted, his voice strange. Sophia picked up the first photo. It showed a very young Rose holding 2 babies, twins. The back of the photo read, Emma and Sophia, 3 months old. Oh my God, Sophia whispered. Oh my God, we're... Sisters, Alexander finished. You and Emma were sisters, twins. The world tilted. Sophia thought she might throw up or pass out or both. "She gave me up," Sophia said numbly. "Rose kept Emma and gave me up. Why? Why would she do that?" Alexander was reading one of the letters, his face grim. "According to this, Rose was only 19 when you were born. Completely alone, no family support, working 2 jobs. She couldn't afford to keep both of you. The letter says she placed you with a foster family in Queens, but—" He scanned further. "But something went wrong. The family moved and Rose lost track of you. By the time she found you again, you were already calling someone else grandmother." "Wait, what?" Sophia grabbed the letter. The handwriting was shaky, dated 2 weeks before Rose's death. "I found Sophia. She's calling Mrs. Carter Gran. She looks happy, healthy. The Carters love her. If I tell her the truth now, I'll destroy her world and Emma's. I've decided I have to disappear. It's the only way both my girls can have peace. I'm sorry. I'm so sorry." Sophia couldn't breathe. She chose Emma. She chose to stay dead to Emma and invisible to me because she couldn't have us both. "She sacrificed everything so you could both be happy," Alexander said softly. "She gave up her whole identity." "But Emma wasn't happy," Sophia burst out, tears streaming down her face. "She died thinking she was alone in the world. And I grew up thinking I was abandoned. Rose's sacrifice didn't save anyone, it just hurt all of us." Alexander had no answer for that. He just reached over and took her hand, squeezing gently. They sat there in the parking lot, surrounded by the truth that changed everything. While Noah slept peacefully in the back seat, a little boy who'd just gained an aunt he didn't know he needed. The next 2 weeks were a blur of DNA tests, just to be absolutely certain, legal consultations and late-night conversations that stretched until dawn. The DNA results came back conclusive. Sophia and Emma had been identical twins, separated at 3 months old through a private adoption that Rose had arranged in desperation. Alexander's apartment became their headquarters. Sophia found herself there almost every evening, initially to help piece together the past, but increasingly because Noah refused to let her leave. "Aunt Sophie has to stay for story time," he'd insist, wrapping his small arms around her leg. "Please, Daddy." And Alexander, watching his son light up in ways he hadn't since Emma died, never had the heart to say no. On a cold Saturday morning, Sophia arrived to find Alexander in the kitchen, staring blankly at a frying pan with an expression of deep confusion. "Everything okay?" she asked, setting down her bag, a new one Alexander had insisted on buying her after her old one literally fell apart on the subway. "I'm attempting pancakes," Alexander said grimly. "Noah requested them. I've never made pancakes in my life. Emma always—" He trailed off. Sophia gently took the spatula from his hand. "Let me guess. You've negotiated million-dollar deals, but never mastered breakfast food. In my defense, that's what diners are for." "Not anymore," Sophia said, rolling up her sleeves. "Lesson 1. You can't raise a kid on takeout and boardroom skills alone. Where's your mixing bowl?" What followed was a chaotic but surprisingly fun cooking lesson. Alexander proved to be a disaster with measurements. A pinch? What's a pinch? That's not a real unit of measurement. But he followed instructions earnestly. Sophia found herself laughing, really laughing, for the first time in months. "You're getting batter in your hair," she pointed out, trying not to giggle as Alexander looked affronted. "That's impossible. I'm being extremely precise. You have very expensive hair gel that's now mixed with pancake batter. Just embrace the chaos." Noah wandered in, saw his father covered in flour, and burst into delighted laughter. "Daddy's messy." "Thanks for the support, buddy," Alexander said dryly, but he was smiling. They ate breakfast together at the dining table, lumpy, slightly burnt pancakes that tasted better than anything from a restaurant because they'd made them together. Noah insisted on sitting between Sophia and Alexander, chattering about his preschool and his new friend Marcus, who could count to 100. For a moment, it felt almost like a family. The thought scared Sophia more than she wanted to admit. Later, while Noah napped, Alexander brought up something that had clearly been on his mind. "I talked to my lawyers," he said carefully. They were sitting on the couch going through more of Emma's things. "About your situation. The shelter, I mean." Sophia stiffened immediately. Alexander, just hear me out, he said quickly. You're Noah's aunt. You're Emma's sister. Your family. And you're sleeping in a shelter in Queens while there are 3 empty bedrooms in this apartment. Absolutely not, Sophia said firmly. I'm not a charity case. That's not what I'm saying. Then what are you saying? Sophia stood up, pacing. That because we share DNA with a woman who's gone, you owe me something. That I should just move into your fancy apartment and play house with you and Noah? Alexander stood too, his jaw set. That's not fair. You know that's not what this is. Do I? Sophia challenged. Because from where I'm standing, this looks like a wealthy guy trying to fix a problem with his checkbook. You bought all my flowers. You bought me this bag. You keep accidentally ordering too much food when I'm here. You're trying to save me, Alexander, and I don't need saving. Everyone needs help sometimes, Alexander shot back. Those are your words, remember. You said them to me in Times Square. That's different. How? How is it different? Alexander's voice rose slightly, something rare for him. You helped my son when he was falling apart. You've been helping me figure out how to be a single parent. You've given us your time, your energy, your kindness. Why is it so impossible to imagine someone wanting to help you back? Sophia felt tears prickling her eyes. Because people don't help without expecting something in return. Because every time I've trusted someone to catch me, they've let me fall. Because, her voice cracked, because I can't afford to hope, Alexander. Hope is expensive, and I'm broke in every possible way. The anger drained from Alexander's face, replaced by something softer. Sophia. No, let me finish, she said, wiping her eyes roughly. You live in this beautiful world where problems have solutions and money can fix things. But I live in a world where one medical emergency destroyed my entire life, where I lost my job because I got pneumonia and couldn't work for 3 weeks, where the safety net everyone talks about has holes big enough to fall through. She took a shaky breath. I'm clawing my way back up, inch by inch, and if I let myself depend on you, what happens when you realize I'm too complicated, too broken, too much work? Where do I fall then? Alexander was quiet for a long moment. Then he said, Can I tell you something about Emma? Sophia nodded, sinking back onto the couch. When we first started dating, Emma wouldn't let me pay for anything, Alexander said, sitting beside her. Not dinner, not movies, nothing. She was waitressing and taking night classes, barely scraping by, but she refused any help. It drove me crazy. He smiled at the memory. One night I asked her why, and she said the same thing you just did, that she couldn't afford to hope, that depending on people was dangerous. What changed? Sophia asked quietly. I told her that loving someone means letting them see you struggle. That partnership isn't about being strong all the time. It's about taking turns being strong when the other person can't be. Alexander looked at Sophia intently. Emma was terrified of being vulnerable, but she let me in eventually, and we built something real because she took that risk. I'm not Emma, Sophia whispered. I know, Alexander said gently. You're Sophia. You're stubborn and proud and brave in ways Emma never had to be. You've survived things that would have broken most people. He paused. But you're also Noah's aunt, and whether you like it or not, that makes you family. Family shows up for each other. No strings, no debt, no ulterior motives. Just family. Sophia felt something crack inside her chest. A wall she'd been building brick by brick for 2 years, ever since her grandmother died, and the world became impossibly hard. I'm scared, she admitted. Me too, Alexander said. I'm terrified of everything lately, of failing Noah, of never moving past Emma's death, of making mistakes that can't be fixed. But I'm trying anyway, because what's the alternative? Giving up? He echoed her words from the car. What else are we supposed to do? Sophia laughed wetly. Using my own logic against me, that's low. I'm a CEO. We're trained in negotiation tactics. They sat in silence for a moment, the weight of everything settling between them. If I moved in, Sophia said slowly, it would be temporary, just until I get back on my feet, find a job, save enough for a place. Of course, Alexander agreed immediately, and I'd contribute. Cooking, helping with Noah, whatever I can do. You don't have to— Yes, I do, Sophia interrupted firmly, or it won't work. I need to feel useful, not like a burden. You could never be a burden, Alexander said quietly, but okay. Deal. Sophia studied his face, the exhaustion around his eyes, the tension in his shoulders that never quite left, the grief that lived in every expression. He was barely holding it together himself, she realized. Maybe they both needed this. Maybe broken people could help hold each other up. One condition, she added. Name it. You teach me to code. Alexander blinked in surprise. What? You said you taught yourself Python at 12. I want to learn. I'm good with kids, but that's not a long-term career path that pays enough to live in New York. But tech? She shrugged. Maybe I could build something new. If you teach me. A slow smile spread across Alexander's face, the first genuine one she'd seen from him that reached his eyes. Deal. But I'm warning you, I'm a terrible teacher. I have no patience for syntax errors. And I'm a terrible student. I argue with instructions. This is going to be a disaster. Probably, Sophia agreed. They shook hands solemnly, then both started laughing at the absurdity of formally negotiating a living arrangement like it was a business deal. From the bedroom, they heard Noah stirring. Daddy? Aunt Sophie? Where are you? We're here, buddy, Alexander called. We're right here. As Noah padded out in his dinosaur pajamas, rubbing sleep from his eyes, Sophia felt that dangerous thing bloom in her chest again. Hope. Maybe, just maybe, broken things could be mended after all. Sophia had been living in Alexander's apartment for 3 weeks when the other shoe dropped. She'd settled into an unexpected rhythm. Mornings helping Noah get ready for preschool, afternoons job hunting and taking online coding tutorials Alexander had set up for her, evenings cooking dinner while Alexander finished work calls. It felt almost normal, dangerously normal. She should have known it couldn't last. The first sign of trouble came during a Tuesday morning at Greenberg & Associates, a prestigious law firm in Midtown, where Sophia had landed an interview for a receptionist position. She'd made it through 2 rounds and was meeting with the hiring manager, a severe woman named Patricia Greenberg, who ran the firm with an iron fist. Your resume is impressive, Miss Carter, Patricia said, scanning the documents. Montessori certification, excellent references from your previous position. Though I notice there's a gap, nearly 2 years. Can you explain that? Sophia had prepared for this. I experienced a medical situation that required time off. I'm fully recovered now and eager to return to work. I see. Patricia made a note. And your current address is listed as the Upper West Side? That's quite an expensive neighborhood for someone who's been out of work. Sophia felt her stomach clench. I'm staying with family temporarily. Family? Patricia's eyes sharpened. Would that family be Alexander Bennett, the CEO of Bennett Technologies? The room suddenly felt very cold. How did you— My firm handles corporate litigation, Miss Carter. We keep tabs on prominent businessmen. Patricia leaned back in her chair. Imagine my surprise when our background check showed you've been living in his penthouse. A young woman, recently homeless, moving in with a wealthy widower. It raises questions. It's not like that, Sophia said, her voice tight. Alexander is my brother-in-law. My late sister was his wife. Patricia's expression didn't change. A sister you've only recently discovered, according to public records. How convenient that this revelation came with a luxury apartment. Sophia stood up, her chair scraping loudly. This interview is over. Miss Carter, you've already made up your mind about who I am, Sophia said, fighting to keep her voice steady. Thank you for your time. She walked out with her head high, but her hands were shaking. By the time she reached the street, tears were streaming down her face. She called Alexander from a coffee shop in Murray Hill. They think I'm using you, she said, without preamble when he answered. They think I'm some gold digger who manipulated her way into your life. Sophia, slow down. What happened? She told him about the interview, about Patricia's insinuations. Alexander's voice went cold in a way she'd never heard before. Give me the name of the firm. Alexander, no. Sophia, that's discrimination. They can't make hiring decisions based on— It doesn't matter, Sophia interrupted. Don't you see? This is what everyone will think. Rich widow, poor woman, convenient family connection. I told you this would happen. I told you people would assume the worst. I don't care what people assume. Well, I do. Sophia's voice cracked. I care, Alexander. Because I've spent 2 years rebuilding my reputation, my dignity, my sense of self-worth. And now everyone's going to think I'm just another opportunist, using a tragedy for personal gain. There was a long pause. Then Alexander said quietly, Where are you? I'm coming to get you. No. I need to think. I'll be home later. She hung up before he could argue. She spent the afternoon walking aimlessly through Central Park, wrestling with her thoughts. Maybe moving in had been a mistake. Maybe the whole thing was too complicated, too fast, too messy. But when she finally returned to the apartment that evening, she found something that changed everything. Alexander was sitting at the dining table, Noah asleep in his lap, surrounded by papers. He looked up when she entered, his face drawn. I need to show you something, he said. Sophia approached cautiously. The papers were printed articles, social media screenshots, and what looked like legal documents. What is all this? Damage control, Alexander said grimly. After you called, I had my PR team do some digging. Turns out Patricia Greenberg isn't just nosy, she's deliberate. She's on the board of directors at Kellerman Industries. Sophia frowned. Should that mean something to me? Kellerman is Bennett Technology's biggest competitor. They've been trying to acquire us for years, but I keep refusing. This, he gestured at the papers, is their new strategy. They can't beat me in the boardroom, so they're going after my personal life. Sophia sank into a chair. What? Look at this. Alexander showed her a screenshot of a gossip blog. The headline read, Tech mogul's mysterious new housemate, romance or ruse. There was a photo taken with a telephoto lens of Sophia and Alexander leaving his building together, Noah between them holding both their hands. The caption speculated wildly about their relationship. Oh God, Sophia whispered. It gets worse. Alexander pulled up more articles. They're spinning a narrative. Grieving widower, vulnerable homeless woman, scandalous cohabitation. They're painting you as either a manipulator or a victim, and me as either a predator or a fool. Either way, it damages my credibility right when we're about to announce a major product launch. This is insane, Sophia said, her head spinning. Why would they go this far? Because if they can make me look unstable or morally questionable, shareholders might force me out. Then Kellerman swoops in with an acquisition offer, the board accepts, and I lose the company my father built. Alexander ran a hand through his hair. I'm so sorry, Sophia. I never thought they'd drag you into this. Sophia stared at the articles, feeling sick. What do we do? My lawyers say we have options. We could sue for defamation, get restraining orders against the paparazzi, issue public statements. That'll just make it worse, Sophia interrupted. Fighting it proves they got to us. Ignoring it makes us look guilty. She met his eyes. There's only one solution, Alexander. I have to move out. Absolutely not. It's the only way to stop this. I don't care. Alexander's voice rose, waking Noah slightly. He lowered his tone, adjusting his son in his arms. I don't care what they write or what they think. Your family, Sophia, you belong here. But your company can survive a scandal. Companies always do. Alexander's jaw set stubbornly. But what kind of person would I be if I threw you out to protect my reputation? What would that teach Noah? That we abandon people when they become inconvenient? Sophia felt tears threatening again. I'm ruining your life. You're saving it, Alexander said fiercely. Do you know what this apartment was like before you moved in? It was a mausoleum. Noah cried himself to sleep every night. I worked 18-hour days because coming home hurt too much. We were surviving, not living. He shifted Noah gently. You brought light back into this place. You taught me how to make pancakes and laugh at my own incompetence. You gave Noah someone who sings Emma's Lullaby and makes him feel safe. I'm not giving that up because some corporate vultures want to play dirty. Alexander, Sophia didn't know what to say. Unless you want to leave, Alexander added quietly. If living here makes you unhappy, if the pressure is too much, then of course you should go. But don't leave because you think you're protecting me. I'm a grown man. I can handle some bad press. Before Sophia could respond, Noah stirred and opened his eyes. Aunt Sophie, he mumbled sleepily. You're home. Yeah, buddy. I'm home. Good. Don't leave. You promised you'd read me the dragon book. Sophia looked at this little boy, her nephew, her family, her unexpected anchor. Then she looked at Alexander, who was watching her with something in his eyes she couldn't quite name, but that made her heart beat faster. I'm not going anywhere, she said softly. Alexander's relief was palpable. Okay. Then we fight this together. Together, Sophia agreed. What she didn't say, what she was only beginning to admit to herself, was that somewhere in the past few weeks, Alexander Bennett had stopped being just her sister's widower. He'd become someone she looked forward to seeing at the end of each day, someone whose rare smiles made her chest feel warm, someone who looked at her like she mattered, and that was more terrifying than any scandal could ever be. The next morning, Alexander called an emergency board meeting at Bennett Technologies. Sophia insisted on coming with him. You don't have to do this, Alexander said as they rode the elevator up to the executive floor of the sleek building in Tribeca. Yes, I do, Sophia said firmly. She'd borrowed one of Emma's old business suits Alexander had offered and she'd accepted, feeling strange wearing her sister's clothes but also oddly protected by them. If we're doing this together, we're doing it all the way. The boardroom was exactly as intimidating as Sophia feared, floor-to-ceiling windows overlooking the Hudson River, a massive table surrounded by powerful people in expensive suits. Alexander's hand found the small of her back briefly as they entered, a gesture of support that didn't go unnoticed by the assembled board members. Ladies and gentlemen, Alexander began, his voice calm and authoritative, I'm aware of the rumors circulating about my personal life. Rather than let speculation continue, I'm addressing this directly. He gestured to Sophia. This is Sophia Carter. She is my late wife's twin sister, recently discovered through family documents. She is Noah's aunt and is staying with us while she recovers from a period of financial hardship. Our relationship is familial, nothing more, and anyone suggesting otherwise is either misinformed or deliberately malicious. A woman at the end of the table, Victoria Chen, the chief financial officer, spoke up. Alexander, we understand the family connection, but the optics are fine, Alexander interrupted. A man helping his sister-in-law after his wife's death. That's not scandalous, that's decent human behavior. Kellerman is using this to undermine your position, another board member argued. They're whispering to shareholders that you're distracted, making poor personal decisions. Then let them whisper, Alexander said coldly. I've increased company revenue by 40% in 2 years. Our new AI diagnostic tool is set to revolutionize cardiac care. Our stock price is at an all-time high. If Kellerman wants to compete on product and innovation, I welcome it. But if they want to fight with tabloid nonsense, they've already lost. Sophia watched him command the room and understood why he was successful. There was steel beneath the grief-worn exterior. However, Alexander continued, if the board feels my leadership is compromised, I invite you to vote no confidence, right now. If you want me out, say so and I'll step down immediately. The room went silent. Victoria Chen looked around at the other board members, then back at Alexander. That won't be necessary, she said finally. Your personal life is your own business, Alexander. As long as the company thrives, you have our support. There were murmurs of agreement around the table. The meeting continued with actual business matters, and Sophia quietly slipped out, her heart pounding. She was waiting in Alexander's office when he returned an hour later. Well? She asked. They're backing me, Alexander said, loosening his tie with visible relief. Victoria's already drafting a statement for shareholders, affirming the board's confidence. Kellerman's strategy failed. Just like that? Just like that. Alexander smiled slightly. Turns out corporate raiders are less effective when you call their bluff. Sophia let out a breath she didn't know she'd been holding. So it's over. The business part, yes. The gossip. Alexander shrugged. That'll die down eventually. Scandals always do when people stop reacting to them. He moved to his desk, looking out at the city skyline. Sophia joined him and they stood side by side in comfortable silence. "Thank you," Alexander said finally, "for being brave enough to come here today, for not running when things got hard." "Thank you for not letting me run," Sophia replied. Their eyes met, and for a moment something unspoken passed between them, an acknowledgement of a shift they both felt, but neither was ready to name. The moment was broken by Alexander's phone buzzing. He glanced at it and smiled. "It's Noah's preschool. Apparently he's been telling everyone his Aunt Sophie is the bestest cook in the whole world and insisting they serve her pancakes for snack time." Sophia laughed. "Those pancakes were terrible." "They were perfect," Alexander said softly, "because we made them together." And there it was again, that warmth in her chest, that dangerous hope she couldn't quite suppress. Maybe some risks, Sophia thought, were worth taking after all. Spring arrived in New York with the kind of gentle warmth that made the whole city feel renewed. Sophia had been living with Alexander and Noah for 4 months now, and the apartment had transformed from a place of grief into something that felt genuinely like home. She'd landed a job as an assistant teacher at a progressive preschool in the West Village. Not glamorous, but honest work that she loved. Between that and the coding lessons with Alexander that had progressed from basic Python to building actual applications, Sophia felt like she was finally rebuilding her life with a solid foundation. But there was something else happening too, something neither she nor Alexander had acknowledged out loud. The way his hand would linger on her shoulder when he passed her in the kitchen. The way her heart jumped when she heard his key in the lock each evening. The way they'd started staying up talking long after Noah was asleep, sharing stories and dreams and fears they'd never told anyone else. The way it felt less like cohabitation and more like something else entirely. It was a Saturday morning in late April when everything came to a head. Noah's preschool was having a spring fair in Central Park, and the three of them had spent the morning at various activity booths. Noah had his face painted like a tiger, won a goldfish at the ring toss, which Alexander was already regretting, and eaten enough cotton candy to power a small city. "I'm going to regret this sugar rush at bedtime," Alexander muttered, watching Noah sprint toward the playground equipment. "Probably," Sophia agreed, grinning. "But look how happy he is." And he was. Noah was laughing, playing, fully alive in a way he hadn't been when Sophia first met him on that street in Times Square 6 months ago. "You did that," Alexander said softly. "You brought him back." "We both did," Sophia corrected. "You learned to be present instead of drowning in work. You learned to make pancakes and tell bedtime stories and be a dad instead of just a provider." "Because you taught me how," Alexander said. He was looking at her with an intensity that made her breath catch. "Sophia, I need to tell you something." "Daddy, Aunt Sophie, come push me on the swings." The moment broke. Alexander sighed. "Duty calls." "We're coming, Noah," Sophia called, but she caught Alexander's hand before he could walk away. "Later. We'll talk later, okay?" "Okay," he agreed, squeezing her hand gently before letting go. They spent another hour at the fair, then walked home through the park as the afternoon sun began to dip toward the skyline. Noah was tired now, dragging his feet, clutching his goldfish bowl carefully. "What are you going to name him?" Sophia asked. "Mr. Bubbles," Noah declared solemnly, "and he's going to live in my room and be my best friend." "What about Marcus from preschool?" Alexander teased. "I thought he was your best friend." "Marcus and Mr. Bubbles," Noah amended. "I can have 2 best friends." "Smart kid," Sophia said, ruffling his hair. When they got home, Alexander set up the goldfish bowl while Sophia started dinner. Noah, exhausted from the day's excitement, fell asleep on the couch before the food was even ready. "Should we wake him?" Sophia asked, looking at the sleeping child. "Let him rest," Alexander said. "We can eat first, then wake him for a bath and real dinner." So they sat at the dining table, just the 2 of them, the evening light streaming through the windows, the city humming quietly below. It felt intimate in a way that made Sophia's pulse quicken. "You wanted to talk earlier," she prompted, pushing pasta around her plate. Alexander set down his fork. "I did. I do." He took a breath. "Sophia, these past few months have been... I don't even know how to describe them. You came into our lives at the worst possible moment and somehow you made everything better. Not easier, better, richer, more real. Alexander, please let me finish, he said gently. I know the timing is complicated. I know there are 1,000 reasons why this is a terrible idea. You're Emma's sister. You're grieving too. We're both still figuring out who we are after loss. But I can't keep pretending that what I feel for you is just familial or convenient or situational. Sophia's heart was hammering. What are you saying? I'm saying I'm falling in love with you, Alexander said simply. Maybe I already have fallen. I look forward to seeing you at the end of every day. I find excuses to make you laugh just so I can hear the sound. When you're not here, the apartment feels empty, even though it's the same space. And I know, this is complicated and messy and probably too soon, but I can't keep lying to myself about it. Sophia felt tears pricking her eyes. I feel it too, she whispered. I've been terrified to admit it, even to myself, because what if it's wrong? What if loving you means I'm betraying Emma somehow? She was my sister, a sister I never got to know, and you were her husband. How can we build something on top of that foundation? Maybe we're not building on top of it, Alexander said thoughtfully. Maybe we're building alongside it. Emma will always be part of our lives. She gave me Noah. She gave you a connection to your past. She brought us together even though she's not here anymore. Loving you doesn't erase what I had with her. It's just different. New. I'm scared, Sophia admitted. I'm scared this will fall apart. I'm scared people will judge us. I'm scared of hoping for something this big. Alexander stood and moved around the table, kneeling beside her chair and taking her hands. I'm scared too, terrified actually, but you told me once that what else are we supposed to do, give up? Well, I don't want to give up on this, on us. Do you? Sophia looked at this man, brilliant, broken, brave, who'd let her into his life when he had every reason to keep his walls up, who'd fought for her when it would have been easier to let her go, who'd shown her that family wasn't just about blood or obligation, but about showing up and staying even when things got hard. No, she said softly. I don't want to give up. Alexander's face lit up with relief and joy. So where does that leave us? I don't know, Sophia admitted. Maybe we take it slow. Keep living here. Keep being a family with Noah, but also acknowledge that there's something more growing between us. No pressure, no timeline, just letting it unfold. I can work with that, Alexander said, smiling. Slow is good. Slow is smart. Though, Sophia added, a mischievous glint in her eye, if you wanted to kiss me right now, I wouldn't consider that rushing things. Alexander laughed, a real, full laugh that transformed his whole face. Is that so? That's so. He stood, pulling her to her feet and cupped her face gently in his hands. You're sure? Stop overthinking it, CEO, Sophia whispered. Just kiss me. So he did. It was soft and tentative at first, both of them testing this new territory. But then Sophia's hands found their way to his hair, and Alexander pulled her closer, and the kiss deepened into something that felt inevitable and right, and like coming home all at once. When they finally pulled apart, both breathless, Alexander rested his forehead against hers. I've wanted to do that for weeks, he admitted. Me too, Sophia said, though I kept telling myself I was imagining the tension. You weren't imagining it. They might have kissed again, but Noah chose that moment to wake up with a loud yawn and a confused, "Why are you guys standing weird?" They sprang apart like guilty teenagers. Sophia couldn't help but laugh at Alexander's flustered expression. We were just talking, Alexander said unconvincingly. Noah squinted at them suspiciously. You're smiling funny, both of you. Are we? Sophia asked innocently. Yeah. Noah climbed off the couch and walked over to them, studying their faces seriously. Then he did something that made both adults' hearts melt. He grabbed each of their hands and held them together. Good. I like when you're happy. Mommy would like it too. Sophia felt tears spring to her eyes. You think so? Uh-huh, Noah said confidently. Mommy used to say that love makes more love, like how you love me and Daddy loves me. So there's two loves, not one. So if you love each other, that's even more love. Math. Alexander picked up his son, hugging him tightly. That's very good math, buddy. I know. I'm smart. Noah squirmed to be put down. Can we eat now? I'm starving. 3 months later, on a warm July evening, Alexander and Sophia stood on the rooftop terrace of his building, overlooking the glittering Manhattan skyline. Noah was at his grandmother's house in Connecticut for the weekend, their first time truly alone since they'd acknowledged their feelings. Nervous? Alexander asked, his arm around Sophia's waist. Terrified, Sophia admitted. Your mother has very strong opinions about everything. What if she hates the idea of us together? She won't, Alexander assured her. She already told me she thinks you're the best thing that's happened to this family since Noah was born. Her exact words were, Emma chose well when she chose you, even from wherever she is now. Sophia leaned into him. That's surprisingly poetic for someone you've described as emotionally constipated. Grief changes people, Alexander said thoughtfully. Losing Emma made my mother realize life's too short for keeping emotions locked away. She's been trying, really trying, to be more present with Noah, and with me. They stood in comfortable silence for a moment, watching the city below. I got the promotion, Sophia said suddenly. At the preschool, lead teacher starting in September. It comes with a significant raise. Sophia, that's wonderful. Alexander hugged her tightly. You've worked so hard for this. Which means, Sophia continued, a nervous edge to her voice, I can technically afford my own place now. Nothing fancy, probably Queens or deep Brooklyn, but my own place. Alexander went very still. Is that what you want? Sophia turned to face him fully. I don't know. Part of me feels like I should want it. Independence, my own space, proof that I've recovered from rock bottom. But another part of me... She took a deep breath. Another part of me loves living with you and Noah. Loves waking up to his cartoon marathons on Saturday mornings, and your terrible singing in the shower, and the way we've all learned to coexist in this weird, wonderful way. So stay, Alexander said simply. Not as my charity case or Emma's sister or Noah's aunt. Stay as Sophia, the woman I love, the woman who's become my partner in every way that matters. People will talk, Sophia warned. They'll say it's too fast, too convenient, too scandalous. Let them talk, Alexander said, echoing his words from months ago. I don't care about their timeline. We've been through enough to earn our own pace. Sophia smiled. When did you become so wise? When I met a woman in Times Square who taught me that sometimes the best things in life come from the moments that break us open, Alexander said softly. Emma's death nearly destroyed me, but it also brought you into my life. I don't believe in silver linings or everything happens for a reason. That's too simple for tragedy. But I do believe in making meaning from pain. And you, Sophia Carter, are the meaning I've made. That's the most romantic thing anyone has ever said to me, Sophia said, tears streaming down her face. Also the most depressing, but mostly romantic. Alexander laughed and kissed her forehead. I contain multitudes. From somewhere below, they heard the faint sound of a street musician playing Empire State of Mind, and Sophia was struck by how much her life had changed in less than a year. Last summer she'd been selling flowers on street corners, sleeping in shelters, convinced that hope was a luxury she couldn't afford. Now she was standing on a rooftop in Manhattan, in the arms of a man who loved her, with a nephew who called her family, and a future that felt solid instead of terrifying. I'll stay, she said, looking up at Alexander. Not forever, necessarily. I want us to keep talking, keep choosing each other every day, not just defaulting to comfort. But for now, for as long as it feels right, I'll stay. That's all I'm asking, Alexander said. Every day we'll choose each other. Deal? Deal. They sealed it with a kiss as the sun set over New York City, painting the sky in shades of gold and pink. Somewhere in the universe, Sophia liked to think Emma was watching, her sister, the woman she'd never known, but who'd given her everything that mattered. And maybe, just maybe, Emma was singing that old lullaby, the one that had brought them all together. Hush now, little star, so bright, Mommy's here to hold you tight. Close your eyes and drift away. Tomorrow brings a brand new day. 1 year later, Noah's 5th birthday party was in full swing in Central Park's Sheep Meadow. Children ran everywhere, hopped up on cake and sunshine. Alexander chased a group of them with a bubble wand, his expensive shirt untucked and grass-stained, looking happier than Sophia had ever seen him. She stood with Alexander's mother, Catherine, watching the chaos with amusement. "You're good for him," Catherine said suddenly. "For both of them. I wasn't sure at first, it seemed too fast, too complicated. But you've brought life back to this family." "Thank you," Sophia said, touched. "That means a lot coming from you." Catherine smiled. "Emma would have liked you, I think. You're different from her, stronger in some ways, more vulnerable in others. But you both share that same kindness, that inability to walk past someone who needs help." She paused. She would want Alexander to be happy. She would want Noah to have someone who sings to him at night. Sophia felt the familiar prickle of tears. She'd cried more this year than in her entire life, but they were good tears. Tears of healing, of belonging, of love. "I miss her," Sophia admitted, "even though I never knew her. I miss the sister I should have had, the conversations we should have shared, the life we should have lived together." "That's the cruelest part of loss," Catherine said wisely. "Missing not just what was, but what could have been." She squeezed Sophia's hand. "But you're honoring her by loving her family so well. That's a gift." Noah came running over, dragging Alexander by the hand. "Aunt Sophie, Dad said you're in charge of the piñata. Can we do it now, please?" "Please," Alexander added, grinning. "The birthday boy requests the piñata." Sophia laughed. Okay, let's do the piñata." As they gathered all the children, as Noah took his blindfolded swings at the paper dragon, as candy rained down and kids scrambled joyfully, Sophia caught Alexander's eye across the chaos. He mouthed, "I love you." She mouthed back, "I love you too." And in that moment, surrounded by laughter and sunshine and the beautiful mess of life, Sophia understood something profound. Healing didn't mean forgetting the pain. It meant learning to hold joy and sorrow together, to honor the past while building the future, to accept that life could break you into pieces, and those pieces could form something new and beautiful. She'd started this journey as a woman with nothing, singing a lullaby to a crying child in Times Square. Now she was a woman with everything that mattered: family, love, purpose, and the courage to hope. Sometimes, she thought, the best stories begin at the breaking point. And sometimes, just sometimes, broken things heal into something even stronger than before.